Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the new season of Grizzly Guernsey Gamer. The new year usually signifies a fresh start or a clean slate, and so today I want to talk about a little platformer made by an indie developer that I was completely enthralled by. A unique adventure starring a little candle. And that game is Candleman.
Candleman's story is very simple and yet incredibly endearing. We play as Candleman, although in game he's just called the Little Candle. Oh, look at his wickle feet. Clop clop clop. Little Candle awakens inside a wooden room in front of a mirror, his reflection illuminating his light. Each chapter has a title, each poignant to the candle's story. The first reads, "Why does the candle burn?" Little Candle is the only light in the darkness, yet he is small and unassuming. Unlit candles dot his path, and yet he has no clear purpose, no clear goal. As the large boat which houses him rocks to and fro across the sea, with no known course, with no known captain. Past tomes of books we find a new purpose. A lighthouse glows in the distance. Our little candle's purpose is realised.
A game like this doesn't need an incredibly complex story, as usually that gets in the way of the gameplay.
Speaking of, Candleman has only a few controls to remember, but the best thing about this game is how diverse their application is. Now, Little Candle can slightly jump and move around as is customary for a platformer, but his unique ability is the light he produces. Little Candle can only use this ability for 10 seconds per level, so you have to be sparing with its use. You can tell how much longer you have to use your flame by how tall Little Candle's wick is, and as you use your flame for longer, it runs out faster. For the most part, you'll use the flame in small bursts of light, but in other situations you'll need to hold the flame longer. Each world contains a unique puzzle element which is affected by the light, and each world contains anywhere from 3 to 6 levels. They're very short, but they allow for a nice streamlined experience wherein you can play the game for a few minutes at a time or for several hours. The first world of Candleman is very simple, allowing the players to get a grasp of the basic platforming, motion of objects relative to the effects of the environment, and even introduce the unlit candles hidden throughout each level. You get 10 lives per level, which is very gracious, so you'll likely never tackle a level you can't complete.
So now you know the format, what do I mean by every level has a unique puzzle element?
So after resolving to make our way to the lighthouse, the little candle must navigate forests, lakes, canopies and ruins. When we think of fire, not only does it bring light, but it also creates heat, and as such each level has a specific trait activated either by light or heat. The lake's ocean life follow the light and can be directed by positioning Little Candle. Flowers bloom, ice melts, and during later levels the mechanics become more involved with the platforming. Midway through we have to use the reflection of Little Candle's idealized self on a mirror to walk on invisible platforms. Some platforms become transparent when using the light. There are even moments when our flame activates a flash of light on obscured paths, warms Little Candle enough to melt away sluggish frost. There are even enemies like ghosts which track onto you, similar to the boos from Mario, but can only be repelled by the light. There's even a world wherein you find loads of discarded light sources such as light bulbs, which not only can be irritated by Little Candle's own light, but can also harm Little Candle with their own. There's just so much thought put into not only the variety of different situations the player is put in, but also how every few levels a mechanic is used in such particular combinations or alterations that the gameplay keeps being reimagined and kept fresh. But also how every few levels a mechanic is used in such particular combinations or alterations that the gameplay keeps being reimagined and kept fresh. Clearing paths of plant life with spiked plants, using the terrain of cogs and gears to scale a mechanical fortress, and every moment of the game, for me at least, was a wonderful experience of clever level design. Plus, with very little tutorial hand-holding, the game does an impressive job at easing the player into a state of passive, fine-tuned progression, which allows the player plenty of baby steps which amount to an easy to play, understand and adaptable playstyle.
I never got stuck playing this game and it's somewhat easy. Well, maybe not easy, but it's not difficult. And it doesn't need to be.
Plus every level has a midpoint which has a checkpoint you can light up. If you do burn out in a level, Little Candle will respawn either at the start or the checkpoint marker, and every candle you light along the way will stay lit. Sometimes some candles can be very sneakily hidden, and so it can be a really engaging experience to search all the nooks and crannies of each level, trying to uncover that one little secret. Every level in which you find all the candles adds a new lyric to the poem which runs through the game's level selection. It's a neat idea really, even if it is rather simple in principle. Plus all of the levels have such luscious designs, interesting environments and quaint sound design that the world has this interesting perception of fantasy. I mean, there aren't really any characters in the game except for the lighthouse and little candle. It let my mind imagine filling in the blanks of the story before the game is set. Is the candle the creation of an enchantress or a wizard? Has the world always been devoid of humans? Then how did all the fireworks and architecture appear? What's the story with the lighthouse? Is this all just an allegory for a person? Or just the imagination of a small child or a person of particular relation to the themes of self-image, their bright spark, or tackling the darkness of the unknown? Who knows? All I know is I played a charming game about a little candle. His flame was bright in the darkness, and even though he didn't know it, he would one day light the way to his potential. He would spark a flame in the darkness so bright that it would ignite like a star in the night sky. Candleman to me seems to be a story of overcoming adversity, finding personal strength, and confidently embarking into the unknown. Because these days we often forget that sometimes our own flame is the brightest in the darkness.
So there we have Candleman, a quirky little platformer which really was a breath of fresh air on the Xbox Live Marketplace, and I had a ton of fun playing it. Although the game is quite dark because that kind of feeds into the main gameplay mechanics, the designs and the environments and the character models and the music and sound effects, they all just make such a perfect example of what an indie game can do when you have a genuinely interesting idea and an almost flawless execution of it. I feel in a lot of ways I've done a bit of a cardinal sin by not putting Candleman on my best games of 2017, just because I was late to playing it. But hopefully this video has done a good enough job of showing you guys just what it's capable of and why you guys should try it for yourselves. So there we have Candleman, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm really looking forward to this new season of content. It's going to be a really big year. I've got a lot of new series coming up and new ideas for videos, and I hope you guys will like what I put out there in the months to come. But either way, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys later.